The diplomatic ring of Zinthra Prime sparkled with chrome polish and artificial starlight, its walls lined with emblems of 1,000 worlds. Delegates glided past in robes of silk metal, their voices a chorus of pride, politics, and posturing. And somewhere beneath it all, pushing a squeaky cleaning drone and carrying a battered mop, was Thomas Rourke, the janitor. Human, nonentity. He wore standard-issue overalls and a scuffed ID badge that barely scanned. His hands were calloused, his back stiff with age, and his eyes, though faded with time, remained sharp beneath the dull lights of Sector 9. He didn't speak much. He didn't need to. No one ever talked to him, except to complain. Rourke moved silently across the promenade, guiding the mop over spilled nectar from some Crenari diplomat chalice. A group of Zarn Dominion officers, in gleaming ceremonial armor, strode past with long strides and even longer egos. One of them, young, brash, and oblivious, turned sharply and collided with Rourke. The impact sent a stack of glossy diplomatic reports tumbling to the floor. "Watch yourself, surface crawler," barked the ensign, glaring down at Rourke. "I was cleaning this section. You didn't see me," Rourke said quietly, crouching to gather the papers. The Zarn officer snatched them away and spat in the corner. "You're not supposed to be seen. You're a human. Mopping floors is all your kind is good for. Don't touch what you can't understand." The others snickered and continued on, boots clicking like drums of disdain. Rourke stood slowly, looked at the spit on the floor, and cleaned it without a word. He'd been insulted before, 100 times. It never stuck, but inside, something stirred, faint and cold, like the ache of an old scar. He finished his route and returned to the maintenance corridor. There, behind a hidden panel in his cleaning cart, was a small, secure data pad. Ancient tech, barely functioning, locked with obsolete Terran military encryption. It buzzed softly. Encrypted message received. Protocol, Emberfall, he's coming. Rourke stared at the screen. His thumb hovered over the accept key. He tapped delete instead. The screen went black. Later that evening, in the common mess hall, where workers from a dozen species slurped nutrient paste and half-watched interstellar news, Rourke sat alone at the corner table. He peeled open a protein bar. His ears perked as a familiar name echoed from the holoscreen. Galactic General Cathor Drellick has arrived at Zinthra Prime ahead of emergency defense meetings. Rourke froze. The bar slipped from his hand. The voice continued. Cathor Drellick, hero of the Firaxis campaign, savior of the Sorn Uprising, and the highest-ranking officer in the Unified Defense Accord. The screen flashed an image of the general. Monstrous in size, his 4 arms crossed, each scar across his hide a badge of valor. Eyes that had stared down the void. Hands that had held dying comrades. And beneath it all, something human, a respect not often seen in alien warlords. Rourke stood, tray in hand, and left the hall. Back in the maintenance quarters, Rourke sat alone in his bunk. A single photo rested on the wall above him, faded, yellowed with time. It showed a younger man in matte black combat armor, helmet under one arm, flanked by soldiers from multiple species. Terran, Zarn, Crenari, even a Sorn child clutching his leg. His eyes in that photo were different, fierce, tired, responsible. No medals, no name tags, just a patch on the arm. 7th Terran Adaptive Division. We move so others may live. He hadn't worn that armor in 20 years. He lay back and closed his eyes, the soft hum of the station masking 1,000 buried memories. He didn't need them. Not anymore. Let the galaxy remember him as a janitor. A ghost. Let them mock. Let them forget. But Cathor was coming. And Cathor never forgot. The docking bay trembled as the Drellick-class battlecruiser descended into Zinthra Prime's orbit. Massive repulsors pulsed like thunder, shaking even the reinforced walls. Everyone in the diplomatic sector stood at attention. Journalists hovered nearby, their drones capturing every motion, every twitch, every word. In a galaxy of polished silver tongues and endless bureaucracy, General Cathor Drellick was a blunt instrument wrapped in honor. He didn't speak unless it mattered. He didn't visit unless it was war. The docking doors parted. outstrode the general. He was 10 feet tall, a wall of scaled muscle draped in ceremonial armor etched with 1,000 campaign symbols. For arms, each bearing old battle scars, rested at his sides. His deep violet eyes scanned the room like a weapon. The gathered ambassadors and envoys instinctively bowed their heads or saluted with their species equivalent. Cathor acknowledged none of them. His steps, slow and heavy, echoed through the grand arrival hall. And then he stopped, mid-stride, his gaze locked across the promenade. There, mopping up spilled nectar near the base of the ornamental pillar, was Thomas Rourke. A janitor, a human. Nobody. Cathor's eyes widened. His entire body straightened. Every head turned to follow his gaze. He stepped forward, not with the pace of a soldier on duty, but like a man approaching a ghost. Rourke looked up from his work. Their eyes met. For a heartbeat, the entire hall fell silent. Cathor marched toward him. The guards tensed. The diplomats exchanged confused whispers. When Cathor reached him, he stopped 1 pace away. And then, he dropped to one knee, for massive arms crossed in front of his chest. His head lowered. Commander Thomas Rourke. Cathor's deep voice resonated through the chamber. Sir. The silence was absolute. The Zarn ensign from the day before, watching from a distance, turned pale green. His datapad clattered to the ground. Rourke blinked, slowly straightened. His voice was quiet but firm. You're not supposed to salute me, Cathor. That part of me is dead. Cathor looked up, eyes gleaming. It is not. The galaxy has need of that man again. Confusion exploded in the hall. Murmurs rose like a tide. Alien dignitaries fumbled for access terminals, cross-checking names, records, anything. A holographic panel flared to life beside the Zarn ambassador. Name, Thomas Rourke. Rank, Commander, 7th Terran Adaptive Division. Status, decommissioned, record sealed. Battle honors, Firaxis Prime, Emberfall Protocol, Sorn Uprising. A wave of disbelief rolled across the room. Impossible, one diplomat muttered. A myth, another said. He's a janitor, someone whispered. But the truth was already loose. Cathor rose slowly. 20 standard cycles ago, this man commanded a coalition force that saved 5 planets and 12 billion lives. He stood when others broke. He bled when others ran. You breathe today because of him. Rourke's jaw tightened. That were cost us everything. I walked away for a reason. I know, Cathor said gently, but it's walking back to find you. Suddenly, a ping echoed from Rourke's cart. The secure datapad. Unseen by most. One new message. Protocol Emberfall reinstated. Await command. Rourke stared at it. He didn't touch it. Not yet. Instead, he turned to face the room, diplomats, dignitaries, soldiers, all now watching him like he was something between a myth and a threat. I'm not your hero, he said flatly. Not anymore. And then he picked up his mop, turned, and walked away. No one stopped him, but the whispers began. The Nonentity was a legend. And legends don't stay buried for long. The door to Rourke's bunk slid shut with a soft hiss. For once, the silence wasn't peaceful. It was suffocating. He sat on the edge of his cot, still in his janitor's overalls. The mop leaned against the wall, but it may as well have been a rifle the way his body remembered posture and discipline. His hand hovered over the secure datapad, the message still glowing. Protocol Emberfall reinstated. Await command. He didn't touch it. Instead, he looked up at the photo above his bed again. That old image of a younger him. Battle-hardened, armored, unbending, standing beside soldiers who are now dust. So many of them never made it home. And those who did weren't the same. Neither was he. Across the station, the news was spreading like wildfire. Zinthra Prime shaken by revelation. Janitor is legendary human commander. Who is Thomas Rourke? Buried records of Firaxis Prime surface. Alien commanders call for emergency military council. On public screens, analysts debated his identity. Some doubted the records. Others were furious such a figure had been reduced to a cleaning role. The Terran ambassador, blindsided, issued a brief statement. Commander Rourke's service is known and honored by the Terran Federation. He retired by choice. That wasn't a lie, but it wasn't the truth either. The maintenance staff cafeteria was half empty when Rourke walked in. Conversations halted. Eyes turned. A few stood up respectfully. Others nervously shifted away, unsure whether to salute or run. The Zarn ensign, the one who'd insulted him, sat rigidly in the corner, chewing slowly. Rourke walked past him, not even glancing his way. He sat alone, as always, but not invisible anymore. Moments later, the doors opened again. This time, it was General Cathor, minus his armor, but still radiating the weight of a war machine. He approached with no guards, no ceremony. "Do you mind if I sit?" Cathor asked. Rourke gestured to the seat. "Suit yourself." Cathor sat, massive and coiled like a predator at rest. "They're already arguing over how to use you," he said. "The Krenari want you as a political figure. The Sorn want you to lead a multi-species task force. The Zarn want you gone." Rourke gave a dry chuckle. "They always did." Cathor leaned forward. "It's not about pride anymore. It's survival. The Outer Rim colonies are going dark. One by one. Pirates." Cathor shook his head. "No. Smarter. Silent. Entire facilities vanish without distress signals. Only patterns so far. Every colony was originally protected by the Emberfall Coalition." Rourke frowned. "You think someone's targeting veterans?" "I think someone remembers you, Tom. And they're removing the old guard before they strike again." Rourke closed his eyes. He had hoped the past would stay buried, along with the horrors it carried. He had walked away from the war not just because of what he lost, but because of what he'd become. The choices, the orders, the things they had to do to survive. But the galaxy wasn't giving him that choice anymore. Later that night, in the quiet recesses of Deck G-17, Rourke entered a long-forgotten storage bay, his old biometric clearance still active. The room lit slowly, revealing rows of sealed crates with faded Terran military logos. He walked past them until he found it, Crate 77 Black. He keyed in the code. The lock disengaged with a hiss. Inside, wrapped in carbon fiber sheeting, was his old armor, matte black, lined with adaptive nanoskin, still bearing the insignia of the 7th Terran Adaptive Division. A whisper escaped his lips. "We move so others may live." He reached in, running a hand across the cold metal of the chest plate. It felt heavier than he remembered, but also familiar, like slipping into the skin of an old life. Behind him, the door opened. Cathor stood there. "You've already made your choice, haven't you?" the general said. "I haven't accepted anything," Rourke replied. "But you opened the crate," Cathor said. "The man who wanted peace would have left it sealed." Rourke didn't deny it. Cathor stepped closer. "This galaxy's built on people like you. Quiet giants. You didn't fall, you rested. Now it's time to stand." Rourke exhaled slowly, eyes fixed on the armor. "Then let's get back to work." The war chamber of Zinthra Prime hadn't been used in over a decade. Circular, domed, and lined with ancient banners from all founding species of the Galactic Accord, it had once coordinated the defense of entire star systems. Now, dusted off and reactivated, it pulsed with urgent data streams and murmured dread. But no one was watching the holograms. All eyes were on the man who had just entered the chamber. Thomas Rourke, no longer a janitor, no longer in overalls, now stood fully clad in his matte black Adaptive Division combat armor, its surface humming with dormant power. The Terran patch on his shoulder had been reattached, worn and proud. The air shifted when he stepped in. Alien envoys fell silent. Officers and diplomats, some of whom had mocked him days ago, straightened, murmuring quietly. He took his place at the center, across from General Cathor, who gave a deep nod. No salute this time, just respect. Cathor spoke first. "Commander Rourke, the Council has granted you provisional authority to assess and lead a rapid response coalition regarding the Outer Rim threats. The floor is yours." Rourke scanned the crowd. Zarn, Krenari, Sorn, Valari, even one of the enigmatic Threx envoys. Some stared at him with skepticism, others with resentment. But many, especially the younger officers, watched with hope. He keyed the console beside him. A map flickered to life, showing sectors of the Outer Rim blinking red, entire outposts gone silent. 17 colonies, he began, voice even each wiped clean. No survivors. No distress calls. All former members of the Emberfall Defense Zone. He tapped again. Another layer of data appeared. Preliminary scans show residual quantum interference, consistent with dormant AI hive movements. That's not piracy. That's extermination. A ripple of unease moved through the room. Rourke continued, I've seen this pattern before. Not this exact threat, but the strategy. We're being probed. Not attacked outright. Tested. Someone wants to see how long it takes before we notice. A Zarn admiral bristled. If this is true, why haven't our own sentries detected these hive signals? Because you built your defenses for direct assault, Rourke said. Not infiltration. Not extinction by silence. That's how we lost the Eridani colonies before Firaxis. He let the weight of that name linger. Everyone knew Firaxis Prime. Kothor stepped in. This council must decide. Do we delay and debate? Or do we respond while we still have time? A Sorn delegate stood. And you'd have us put our trust in him? A human janitor pretending to be a commander. The room tensed. Eyes turned back to Rourke. He didn't raise his voice. Didn't defend himself. He simply turned and tapped the final command on the console. The map zoomed out to reveal a fleet formation. The theoretical layout of a cross-species strike force optimized for the kinds of AI swarm tactics they now faced. Flawless. Precise. Efficient. Who designed this? The Krenari asked. Rourke, Kothor said simply. 20 years ago, Rourke met the Sorn delegate's eyes. I didn't come back for a title. I came because if we wait any longer, your people will be next. A beat of silence. Then the youngest Valari captain stood. My ancestors were saved at Sorn Delta by the 7th Terran Division. If this man says we fight now, I'll follow him. The words broke the tension. One by one, others joined. Some grudgingly, some with reverence. But the tide had shifted. In minutes, the coalition was ratified, a joint task force, operating under temporary direct command of Commander Rourke. Hours later, in the hangar bay, Rourke stood before the assembled strike team. The hulls of Terran, Zarn, and Krenari vessels gleamed under the launch lights. Officers snapped to attention. His armor now bore one final addition, a new insignia beneath the Terran crest, a phoenix burning bright. He took a breath and addressed them. We're not just a fleet. We're a warning. To whatever's watching out there, this galaxy doesn't roll over anymore. Not while we're still breathing. The cheers that followed weren't just for a man. They were for a legend reborn. As the fleet began to undock, Rourke stood with Kothor in the command deck. You're not invisible anymore, Kothor said, smiling grimly. Rourke stared into the stars ahead. I never wanted to be, he said. I just wanted to be done. But peace doesn't mean walking away. Sometimes it means standing again, so others don't have to. The stars waited. So did the war. And the galaxy would remember the name Thomas Rourke. The Nonentity no longer.